I'm just doing the groundhog thing, trying to see myself. And I think that is looking fine. Okay, so start a couple minutes early. Just going to do a couple puzzles or something while we wait for people to trickle in before we start our actual lesson. Make sure I'm live on Twitch real quick. Yes. All right, then. Okay, so today we're doing some analysis, some learning techniques, but first, I need to wake up. Okay, so that looks all right. I'll just do this a couple times while I wait for people to join in the chat. Feel free to say hello once you're in. This looks like one of my recent games. I guess that's it. I've done that like 3 times this week in real games. Feels good. Oof. That's not good. But it's the first chess of the day, and also the first talking of the day, so things are gonna go wrong. This position looks like hella lost to me all of a sudden. I'm like not following here. Not seeing the spicy moves here. I really feel like I have to play e5 or something. Oh, okay. This is fine. There's a double attack at the end. Took me a very long time to see that. Okay. Not so bad, I guess, for the first and only puzzle thing. Okay, I'll probably play this one more and then start my spiel. I'll feel at least moderately sharp before I start analyzing things. I feel like that should be winning too. We'll come back and look at that. But the early puzzles are never that hard, so in a meta sense, I kind of knew it wasn't correct. I don't really like thinking about the meta details there. Ooh, that was surprising. Maybe lift some rooks. They both look kind of similar though. Rook f3 to h3 or something like that, or rook e3. Rook f3 looks a little more convincing. Oh man. Alright, so still not scoring very well today. There was one that I wanted to look at. But then we can dig into the actual content for today. I guess they just want to put their king in the corner or something. But they also want to come here and take this pawn. Oh, I should just take the pawn. I don't know what's wrong with me. Just a little tired, I guess. But that's fine. That'll wear off. So maybe I'll just switch here. So my plan for today was to go over some game analysis tips, and the core concept here is that you often will want to do a full analysis for your tournament games, right? If you go out and play in a tournament or something, you want to, unless of course you win the tournament with like a clean sweep and think you're just that awesome, you might want to see what you did wrong and you know, improve from there, and that could be a very long and involved process, and I've already made a video about that. So this is a little bit different from that because you also play, I mean, if you're like most chess players, you probably play a lot of online blitz or rapid games. And, well, I don't. I play a couple times a week maybe. But still, some games that you might want to go over, right? So these games, they're not as high stakes because you're playing fast time controls and you're both making mistakes, and you're probably playing like at home in your comfy shoes or something with a snack. Like it's not the same as the tournament situation, not as high quality. But nevertheless, some interesting and instructive moments can arise, even though the games are not the most high quality games that you've ever played in your life. And I think it's good not to obsessively analyze those games, but also not completely ignore them. They're not just for fun, they're also learning opportunities. And I had some thoughts like this for the first time probably a few years ago when I was playing chess very actively. And I was approaching all of my games pretty much with the same kind of attention as my tournament games, where I'd just sit and analyze them, even if they were just blitz games or rapid games or something. And I was finding that I don't really have the time that I want to dedicate to studying things that don't happen in my games, things that maybe I need to know ahead of time so that I can make them happen in my games, more theory type stuff. And so I started trying to do kind of a quick approach to studying the bullet game, not the bullet games, the rapid games and the blitz games. And here's how I went about doing that. So here's an example. This looks really hideous. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. Okay, that looks okay. So, so what I've done here is I've collected several of my recent online games from the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks. And these are all games that I have not looked at yet, where I just remember there being something kind of interesting that happened in the game. I think that's sort of a prerequisite for analyzing the game. You shouldn't just analyze games because you played them. You should also analyze them because there's something that you actually want to learn about in the game. Otherwise, you may as well just be studying your tournament games or some master games or some theory type stuff. So, once you have a game of yours that has some kind of interesting content, instead of doing a deep dive on the entire game, like move by move, writing comments and things like that, you should create a study or a PGN, like whatever you like. If you're not sure how to make PGNs, I've made a video about that. You can check it out. So you settle in with your study or whatever, and you start going through the game, and you'll hit just a few moments that you think are really important, and try to do a thorough analysis of just that moment, and then try to extrapolate something about how you could adapt your chess playing based on that. So let's get into this first one where I had black and my opponent chose d3, which is kind of an interesting move. For me, this is already kind of like a major moment, and since we're not doing like a deep and thorough analysis, I think it's perfectly fine to look at the opening lines a little bit, but only if it's something that's really important to you. I wouldn't just spend too much attention on the opening if that's not what you thought was critical. But it's sort of interesting to see, is there a major test here for white that I missed, right? That's one of the interesting questions in this game. And all of my opponents in these games are pretty high rated, so I didn't choose any games where I just beat people because their tactics are not good or something like that. So after d3, I played knight f6, but it's pretty logical to play d5, and I see the d5's been played 3 times. But the moves here are pretty sparse. So here, just for exploratory purposes, I might play d5. And since we're trying to learn something here, I think it's good not to immediately flip on the engine. But, maybe play out a few moves. Don't go too deep into it. So, c takes d5 seems pretty natural because After queen takes, knight c3, white gets a tempo, right? Even this position might be playable, but unless my queen has some really great place to be, I think I might hesitate to choose this line. So I'd probably choose this or some kind of gambit, but I don't think it makes sense to play a gambit right here. And then maybe I'd look at this position and just ask myself, like, okay, does it seem like there should be a refutation for d3? And I think the answer is no. And I have two reasons to think so. Number one, d3 is a very natural move. Well, maybe I have like three reasons. So d3 is a very natural move, so it doesn't really like instinctively trigger this feeling that I should be able to punish d3, right? Because a lot of the time we're playing d3 even on move 1, and it seems like it's perfectly fine. The other thing is that after d4, this is like a ridiculous move, but this is a color reversed version of an opening that's fine. So I don't think there's any reason to imagine that that opening is bad, and so the tempo down version is probably not really bad either. And that's not forced. You know, they could play like maybe g3 here. And just notice that I'm kind of cleaning up my lines. You can't quite see it. Let me try to scroll. Hold on. Yeah, I'm making some notes here. You can probably see it a little bit now. So this is the kind of thing that I'm encouraging you to do. You should keep some notes, keep some studies. Anyway, d3 is not a critical moment. It's just kind of an interesting thing. And I like to use the symbols to mark what I think is interesting, worth noting, that kind of thing. I don't just throw symbols all over the place the way that a lot of people do. I think that chess.com has sort of trained like all the people who started playing chess in the last like 5 years to just like rain symbols down on the board that correspond to like the engine's opinion of the move. I think you should use the symbols in a little bit more of an intelligent way. If you're not sure what the symbols mean, I'm probably going to put out a video pretty soon about like what are all the symbols. So anyway, I played knight f6, which is preparing d5. Doesn't seem crazy. Another option that I could have gone for is with e5, by the way. So this is kind of interesting. And I'm not too sure what my opponent was necessarily going to try to do with this tricky move order. I was kind of expecting like knight f3, which would actually stop e5. So in that sense, e5 is a logical move. It takes advantage of the fact that white has not played knight f3. Okay, so after knight f6, g3, d5, I eventually got in that break, and that's part of why I'm not lingering too much on the move d3. We ended up with a pretty similar position to what you would probably get there. And I finally got e5 in as well. And this is probably where things start to require some analysis. First of all, has this position ever happened? Interestingly, it has happened. And they started with d takes c4. So let's make a note here that this has been played. Maybe I'll cite one game, the most recent game. Not that I think it's important to go look at it, but just to show that this note is here because it shows that someone has actually played this, and this is the first moment where things are out of hand. Oh, but it looks like this transposes to something interesting. So I don't really know this opening. But I think I understand the reason they played d3 now. Excuse me. So if I played like c6, knight f3, let's say knight f6, and they play like g3 to try and play some Englishy stuff, and I play d5, bishop g2, they're probably worried about this move, which I think is the top move and a good move. It's not like it's an amazing move. I'm just putting this exclamation point here to remind myself that maybe this is part of why they played d3. So if they castle here, I think b5 is the standard way to play. And I don't think that they're really getting in any knight e5 type stuff. I don't think it's so threatening. It's more likely that they'll throw a4 first. And b3. And try to just break down the center in this sort of traditional way. But I think black has good chances here. So maybe they didn't like this, so they chose d3. In which case, if you really, really want to play that position where you play d takes c4, you might need to have some special ideas about this move order. Like maybe challenging them directly with e5. Okay, so that kind of clarified for me when I noticed that the same option to take on c4 doesn't really exist. At least not in the same form. It looks like in the games where people played this stuff, they just traded all the queens. And this position looks pretty dry. Like, it's probably playable, but I'm not sure about it myself. Both of the games continue with g6, and here white diverged. They played either h3 or knight c3. Anyway, I don't think this is super worth analyzing. I'll probably just put, like, I think this is equal. Probably not the best that black can do. At least not compared to e5. e5 seems pretty ambitious. So still not like a moment that I want to analyze in detail. This is kind of obvious stuff. Now after e3 we're like out of opening. I'm going to scroll ahead a little bit just to see if any more opening transpositions appear. Yeah, didn't think so. Alright, so no more looking at the openings. Unless maybe it's interesting to see what else someone did here. Here they played e3. So here they've played knight f3, they've played bishop g5, and I think those are the only two moves. And this is actually kind of interesting because it's transposed, and I'm not sure what move order they chose. I'm tempted to look at this game just because I know both of the players. Maybe... Okay, I think it's probably too much of a deep dive to go see what happened in 2012 and like what move order they chose to get here. This is not exactly a critical position, probably. So e3, interesting move. Probably not the one I would have chosen. I think after knight f3, knight c6 is pretty normal. And like, let's say you castle. I don't think black is ever getting in e4 because you'll just take on d8 and then play knight g5, and that looks probably winning. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that one. Probably something like this would happen. And it's a normal position. We don't have to analyze this deeply. And after bishop g5, probably similar story. Like, I don't know, to try to keep things different, you could play knight c3 to keep it different from knight f3. And d4 was played both times here. I'm not sure anything's actually wrong with bishop e6, so this is kind of another story. Not what I'm getting into right now. Hold on. Someone give a follow, thank you. Let's see, who was it? Durian Defense. Hello, welcome. Just going over some of my games here. And in a really brief way. Right now I'm searching for kind of a key moment for this game with a little bit of commentary on the way. So, knight c6 is what I chose against this. Again, this doesn't look like the kind of move where it should be like immediately refuted, but it does close some doors for them. I don't see what's wrong with just developing. Active stuff like bishop b4 or queen a5 does not really seem too convincing to me. But let's just see, for sake of argument. Yeah, it does look kind of like a ready, but they haven't chosen knight f3 yet. which is actually, it ends up being a little bit important in this game, I think. Let's say I just do something like super aggressive for nothing, right? Probably they'll try to trade. The most reasonable way for me to keep the tension is probably with queen to b6, but maybe they can get rid of all the pieces right away, and it's just not happening. This protects the bishop just in time. I can't take with the knight, I have to take with the queen. And after king d2, things are probably fine. Maybe black has a slight pull here. Like, for instance, play this. I don't know, things are looking a little hangy, so maybe knight g4 is too much, but this looks pretty natural. The idea is just to take the c file. Yeah, maybe black is actually a little bit better here. So maybe they shouldn't just trade willy-nilly, but instead could try, like, blocking this. That seems a little more normal. Develop the pieces. Yeah, black probably has a slight initiative after something like this, because they have to protect their d-pawn. Okay, I actually like black's position here, so maybe bishop b4 is interesting. Okay, so I actually didn't notice this. This could be one of those important moments to analyze. This is a sort of obvious move too, right? Like, white does not have their pieces developed. Black also doesn't, but, you know, I'm developing with tempo, and then immediately getting all the pieces active. Maybe they could try this way to, like, take everything out, but I also kind of like this position. Yeah, maybe this is the right way. I'm going to upgrade this from interesting to a good move. And another good thing to do when you are annotating your games like this is you should make some notes. So let's see, can you guys see the notes properly? Probably not. Oh yeah, it'll appear in the variation. So I might put some text here like, this is an obvious way to finish development quickly and put pressure against white's lack of development and weak d3 square. I think that's a fair statement. And you can see I just put that in the notes for the game. So this is like one key moment, but I think the reason I selected this game was there was something else that was really interesting to me. So here after 92, this is departing from the ready territory entirely. I guess they could put this knight on f3 if they wanted to keep it a little ready-like. But yeah, there's just something about this. Since this was a 5-minute game, I think I kind of went on autopilot for developing the pieces. So I played bishop e7, even though there's no threat of bishop g5 or anything, just to kind of tuck it out of the way. get the opening over with. Now I think that it might have been around here that I was interested. Let me scroll ahead a little bit. Okay, so I think a5's fine. I don't want to criticize that too much. The main move I would compare it with is like bishop e6 anyway, which is a normal move as well. So might be splitting hairs there. So a5, bishop e6. I think this was a critical moment. And it's good to label your critical moments maybe ahead of time. I didn't do that for this stream just because I kind of threw this together pretty quickly. This is a critical moment in the sense that how I deal with this d4 move is going to control the course of the rest of the game. What I ended up playing is e4 which locks in this bishop, but allows the move knight f4. And it's a little bit of a complicated interplay, I think. So these next few moves are probably important to analyze. And since this is a rapid kind of analysis, basically I'm gonna like write down my first impressions and then compare it with the engine. Playing Go Fish with the chess computer. So I think my rationale for playing e4 is, first of all, I wanted to lock in the bishop. I think it has some intrinsic value to shut down the bishop on g2. And if I take here, I think this is a mistake because they'll take, and now I have this isolated queen pawn. So I'll just put a note here. I didn't think tactics were really like happening here. This is just maybe a not good isolated queen pawn situation for me. I'll even put in an evaluation. So when I compare with the engine, I'll see what it really thinks about that. So taking's out of the question in my mind. But I also could have tried to improve a piece or something, right? So, for instance, rook c8. Although I'm not sure rook c8 is actually improving, so maybe I should think a little bit more deeply on this before going forward. Maybe queen b6 is a good idea. Idea is to eventually take on d4 and not give them any rest. Like not take initially, because they're also going to struggle to develop their pieces maybe. Like bishop d2, I think queen b2 is going to happen. Yeah, I think the queen has enough room to escape. Like, for example, I always have this one and back to d6. Maybe this is a draw. Actually, maybe it's not even a draw. Hold on. Yeah, there's d3. Okay, so that's fine. Escaping barely. But barely is good enough. They could also try this, but I don't see any danger here. So I would say bishop d2 is a mistake, and we can check that with the computer very soon. And if they play like something different, like rook b1, I was thinking to do something like this. And just say, like, I have the better pieces. Like, maybe play this to try to fix the weakness. Because if they play b4 ever, then I think this is transparently good. Like, I'm going to take on a3 at some point, you know. It could be equal with the b7 pawn being weak. But it'll be hard for them to capture b7 without losing. Oh wait, there's bishop f4 here. I was thinking without losing the a3 pawn, but this looks pretty normal. So actually, after b4, I might have to play more subtly against the a pawn. So it might be double-edged. I'm going to put this down as with counterplay. So maybe this is not as clear as I thought it was. So not a4. Maybe tactics time. This looks a little bit better. Sort of pinning down the b pawn in a different way. If they try some similar placement of the bishop, I was gonna just take this potentially. Although even this might be giving them more than they deserve. Nah, I think I could probably win this. I'd say this is like slightly better for black. I mean, black's better. Welcome, Pedro, in the chat on YouTube. Okay, so I think that's probably good. So they might have to play something like this. And this is maybe equal. I'm not so sure, actually, because now I feel like this bishop has a purpose in life. So maybe this bishop is not doing as well. So it could be like equal. I'm gonna just wager this is equal. So when we look with the computer, we'll see what the truth is. Well, not that it's the truth, but like what the differing opinion from a strong computer is. Okay, so I think I still feel satisfied with my decision to play e4 so far. So I'm going to keep that as a good move. And even this situation all seems fine. Maybe they got a little too much activity, but what else am I going to do here, right? Okay, I think this is fine. So now they're still struggling to develop their pieces. Queen d7 seems like very normal. Oh yeah, here's the problem. This was the critical moment, actually. Because the reason this is so critical is that when I play e4, and then bishop g4, maybe this is the interesting moment. So I think that there's a forced line from this moment. So I put a note here in my annotations about that. And after bishop g4, f3, when I take everything, at this moment, when I take on f3, this could be a mistake. I'm just going to put it tentatively as a mistake, because the d-pawn is hanging. And it really can't be saved. So I started playing for counterplay here, like queen d7. I'm just trying to like get the rooks involved and do something. But this was a dangerous moment. So I didn't really sense this danger in the 5-minute game, because I just thought like, okay, they're gonna get a weak e3 square. I'm getting rid of the bishop that defends their king. Like I was thinking on those lines, not thinking about losing the center, because they got more development, more initiative. So going back, what should be done? I think I was hesitant to play a move like queen d7 in this position, because if they take, and I take with the pawn, which I thought would bolster my center, they might get some counterplay like this. So maybe the first thing is to determine whether this counterplay is actually useful. As I'm looking at it, I don't feel that concerned. I see they have a lot of weaknesses on the light squares. I mean, I also have weakness on the light squares, but my pieces are at least developed. So maybe it's time to go for some kind of attack. Maybe even liquidate the weakness immediately, like go here and play e5. This looks like it has some small issues of its own. So maybe not that exactly. But the spirit of it is true. And you guys could always pitch in your feedback if you want in the chat. This is a little bit of a one-person rodeo today, but I'm also glad to hear your thoughts. Yeah, this is an interesting moment. I'm not too sure what to do here. Metal Eagle on Twitch, thank you for the welcome back. I've actually been streaming the entire time. I was just on YouTube, so if you want to see whatever content you might have missed, you can just check it out at my YouTube channel. That's on my profile. And thank you for the follow, Ghost Pays. Also, if you guys want to join my Discord, I can put the link in the chat. I know some people watching already have it, but just for anyone who's new, if you want to do the Discord thing. Oh yeah, and thanks for the cup. Yeah, this is from my new merch store. It looks just like me, doesn't it? Thank you for the YouTube sub, Middle Eagle. Yeah, my merch store, I think I have a command for that on Twitch, so... Yeah, and I'll just copy that link again for the people on YouTube. Yeah, that's my merch store. It's new. It's interesting. I'm actually wearing the hoodie for it, but I got the black on black, so you can't really see how it is from here. I like the ultra dark, very subtle pattern, as opposed to the in-your-face Coach Robert logo on top of like a white hoodie or something. So this position's kind of interesting, and I think black at least can be worse. So maybe this is a misplaced situation in which to be analyzing. But at the very least, this is not like a terrible alternative. Maybe it would be more precise to play like rook b8 and b5 or something and play on the queen side, but I think ignoring the knight on f4 is not a big deal. This is probably like a big takeaway in this situation. And this is probably just a little too reactionary. I think this is the move that I really want to criticize as a critical moment. Additionally, is this move also winning a pawn? Or forcing bishop e6? Let me see. If white were to play, like let's say I did something, I don't know, something that doesn't change the status quo very much, like rook b8, protecting the rook on, protecting the pawn on b7, right? They can take, just keep taking, lots of taking. And then at the end, after they try a move like this to try to pin and win the knight, I have two options. I can take on e4 and win that pawn, or I can take on e7 with check. So either way, I'm winning at least one pawn, if not two pawns. So I think that maybe f3 is not even the best move here, and I shouldn't be analyzing that situation. Just like the fact that queen b3 exists kind of tells me that bishop g4 was not so good. So I think probably what comment I would make here is that I should be more mindful of how forcing moves could force the opponent to play a strong move. So I should look for good saving moves before I attack the queen in the future. Granted, in a tournament, I will do things like that pretty much automatically, but I'm trying to get better at doing the simple things faster too, right? It shouldn't take so much thought for me to be like bishop g4. Okay, now queen b3, a typical way of attacking back, is happening. So I think this was the main critical moment, and we'll go through the rest of the game quickly before we look at this with the computer. Let me see. So the next move, so I lost the d-pawn, and the rest of this is not that interesting. They traded a lot of stuff, finished their development, and I just started trying to play very actively and have some weaknesses to attack. Tried to prevent them from playing e4, and eventually got a little bit of a counter tactic that helped me stay in the game. And after king f2, I took the rook, and I don't know why they blundered the rook. It was just some kind of sad thing that happened. So this part's not worth analyzing, unless you want to see the finale, where they resigned. Two rook sadness. So this was really the critical moment. So let's flip on the weak light chess engine and look at that a little bit. We could also dig a little bit in the opening, but I don't think the light chess engine will perform well on like this move. It says d5 is straight up zeros. I'm also looking for like key tactical moments that I missed. So here it was saying that black is slightly better after this trading sequence. To me this looked kind of dry, so I'm not sure if this is just the engine overestimating black's chances or me having a pessimistic outlook on trading queens early. Okay, so this trade is probably favorable for black, so they should just develop the piece, but not what I'd consider a key moment. Here the engine really seems to like the move h5, so this is kind of interesting to look at later. I like to flag in my notes what things I noticed and what things I only saw after the engine pointed it out, just for completeness' sake. Okay. Yeah, here they like moves like bishop f5, makes sense. Again, like really aggressive stuff that I didn't notice in the 5-minute. Here the engine also says that d4 immediately is good. I wonder if it's better than provoking d4 from white. So after bishop e6, d4, yes, his white is slightly better or equal. Okay, so here's another thing that I missed. And I think I know why I missed this. I used to play moves like this constantly. I don't know how to explain actually why I don't do this anymore. I think I'm just like kind of tired of seeing the structure maybe, which sounds weird to say. But also this gives some kind of activity to white, and I don't think I want to clarify the situation that much. I think I'd rather keep it strategic for some time. So I'm going to give this an exclamation point because it's a good move from the computer, but I'm not really going to give further comments. Alright, so testing things out here. So I said queen d7, and we looked at the line with knight takes e6. We could also look at the line with f3, but that's just like analyzing what happens after bishop g4, f3, bishop e6, and then knight f4, and then queen d7. It's the same position, and I don't think that's like a very sensible line, so this is more important. And here it does say f takes as opposed to queen takes. If queen takes, it says white is better after f3, and this makes sense to me, like for a similar reason. My center is kind of collapsing if I don't take on f3, and if I do, then d5 is pretty weak, and white has like piece activity, so I kind of get that. The main takeaway here is that like really anything is probably fine after bishop h3. Like here it says knight d8, that's a kind of obvious good move. Queen d6 is probably also fine, that's the move that we looked at. Yeah, right now it's showing like very equal looking stuff. Again, this engine's not that strong, so some kind of surprises could be here. But I don't think we're trying to do a deep analysis of the opening position. Like it came about from some wacky opening moves. So mostly just looking to see if like I blundered anywhere in here. Now bishop g4, it's definitely showing that this is better for white after f3. So let's check the queen b3, because I thought that was kind of interesting. So after rook b8, knight takes d5 is winning, in fact. Makes sense. Here, a4 it says is better for black, but I'm not sure I get it. Like, I get this one, because after knight a5, the queen's, like, basically trapped, right? Like, queen b5, I think. I should be able to get something here. Yeah, engine says knight b3. I don't know, this looks complicated, but like it's plausible that black has some kind of forced line. Like I'm happy to sack a pawn probably to get my knight on b3. So probably don't need to analyze that so deeply. But I thought after queen a2, which I'm going to put as the main line, I should also flag this as computer stuff in my notes. Alright, so after queen a2, right? The same deal is happening on d5, where if I play bishop e6, then after f3 everything kind of goes back to the way it was. Here it's saying rook a5. Okay, so this is an interesting defense that I just didn't really think about. It still looks kind of dangerous, like bishop d2. The computer wants to play g5. I thought about g5 at some point, but it's still kind of like scary looking this whole way. So h6 if you don't want to lose this. What's the deal with this move? It says the knight on h3 is trapped. Alright, this is all very tactical stuff. I'm not sure that I would get anything out of analyzing this tactical sequence that much, because I don't know, like it just seems kind of like something I would have to calculate in a tournament game, not something I can apply in the context in which this game occurred. It's very, very concrete, so I doubt it'll be extensible to other positions that are similar to it. I guess what I want to remember about this is that I should consider this move to begin with, probably, even if it looks tactically dangerous, because the computer seems to think that by supporting this d-pawn fully and not giving up the bishop pair for it, black retains some advantage. And also I think that the space from having a4 and rook a5 is beneficial in this structure, where white has played a3 and b2. So this is kind of an interesting thing. So I guess I'll just put a note here that in a tournament I should consider such moves, even if it requires some tactical justification, something like that. So I think that I got a bad position in this game out of carelessness, pretty much. That probably shows in the move times. Like, let me see if I can get the move times to show up. Looks like the answer is no, because this isn't the original game. But yeah, I think I probably played like rather quickly, since it was a 5-minute game, and this is just like one careless fast move. And probably my intuition should guide me elsewhere. So queen b3 was not dangerous the way I thought. It looks like this is a really good move. And f3, things kind of followed the script. Let me just check here. Yes, this bishop e6 was better. But it's hard to choose bishop e6 here after playing bishop g4. Like, I don't think provoking the exchange of the e and f pawns is useful. Okay, so I think this is it for this game. And I have a second game against the same opponent. Where I played white. all this stuff is like opening things, right? Okay, so here I think is the critical moment for me in this game. I think that in this moment I forgot my opening ideas. And just to sort of review, right? So this position in the winnower French gives white a, not even like really a material advantage, but they start out up a pawn with a slightly worse structure and behind in development. And then they're up 2 pawns, and it's the same kind of imbalance. But after taking the G and H pawns, in the end game, white is basically running the H pawn all the time. So if you can trade queens as white, you're probably winning. So our goal is kind of to like get all the pieces out safely without a disaster happening, and then go for that endgame. And normally, you should play f4. And this is the move that I would have played in the past, and I think I messed it up this time, just like a lapse of reason. And after, for example, let's say queen a5. Eventually we're going to reach a position where like they take on c3 probably. And maybe add this to try to make bishop d7 difficult. And come back here. And eventually like take this pawn. I think this is a fine position for white. Although usually it happens in this kind of way where they play like, I think like this. I think because they took so early, I might have gotten thrown. This is kind of what I'm getting at here. I think that normally in this position, before they take on, so they take on d4. Yeah, what did I think was going on here? Because now that I'm looking at it, it just seems like kind of obvious that we should play this. I think one of the first lines that I ever looked at was something like this, where we come back. They play d4, something like this. Yeah, probably the only thing I need to take away here is that I need to review my lines. Seems a little unfamiliar all of a sudden. One of the tricks that I learned about in this opening is with queen c7 early, and then after queen g4, knight e7 is pretty much forced. Queen takes here. Typically, I think people take on d4. Yeah, there's like 1,500 games on live chess only that are with c takes d4. But a tricky move order is with knight c6. And I'll just put that as the main line just because I'm showing it to you guys. Now here, if you play a move like some people get ambitious. They're like, oh, black is not attacking and destroying my center. I'll play knight f3, and this is a big mistake. If you're watching the replay, this is a good moment to figure out what black should do. But we'll just get into it right now. Now, when they take on d4, this is like a better version, I think. Because after pawn takes d4, if you take back, you run into a world of hurt after knight takes d4. Knight c2 is happening, knight f3 is happening, queen e5 is on the menu. And if you take this, it's just like your final mistake. This is a pretty common like blitz trick in the winnower French. where the rook's hanging, the knight's hanging, everybody's hanging. So that's one of the main things that people go for in this kind of position. And there's a few different move orders that you can get to it in. I want to just check the engine valuation here. Although it doesn't mean much in positions like this. It's just chaotic. It says queen d3. That was the move that I was thinking originally. I played rook b1 under the influence of the opening guide here. I think I'll probably have to just hit the books about this again a little bit, because I strayed from my normal path, but I think I played kind of normal moves after this. Just something seemed off a little bit. f4 seems fine, and after d4, queen d3, I feel like we're steering back into known territory almost. I wonder what the computer wants to say about this. Interestingly, it says this position's winning for white. It says knight g3. So I want to just turn this engine off. Sometimes when I find an unexpected good move, I like to try to figure it out myself. So there's something about this position where knight g3 is possible, where it's normally not possible in the main lines of the French. So let's see what the normal looking move might be. Let's just pretend that I played something reasonable. And maybe they do this. And I choose knight e2 anyway. Yeah, bishop d7 and d takes c3 are both common moves here. So let's say they play d takes c3. f6 and d6 are weak. Yeah, I know. I understand that. I'm just trying to understand why you can't do this in the main line. Because here, typically we reach a position that looks like this with queen d3, d4. And now in this position, I don't think that knight g3 is a move. So let's look at it. And my note here is that this is for comparison with knight g3 in the main line. Or in the main game. So what's the deal with this? Let's look at this with the engine. Bishop d7, it says is equal. Knight e4. See, this position is very, very similar, right? It's like with the queen on h7, it's winning. But after queen d3 and knight g3, it's not. Like, here they castle. Even here, like f7's hanging with knight d6. I was thinking maybe with the queen on h7 you can play queen takes f7 at some moment. This is really good, but I'm not sure about it. So it says knight d6, king b8, I guess. That looks good. Throw b6, and it's suggesting draw by repetition. Knight takes f7 looks very bold, but this is at least a draw, right? Because they can only play queen on a light square and then queen back to a dark square, and then that's how she goes. This looks like a different kind of equality, where like there's counterplay and it's dangerous. So this, I'm gonna just say it's complicated, at least from my like very brief analysis here. So let's go back and compare that. So in this position, knight g3 is a winning move. And if we follow the same track, right? So they're saying already like king d7 and some crazy stuff. So let's say they just play this normal move. Knight e4, and then knight d6 is happening. Makes sense. Alright, so this is what I really thought was dangerous. After knight e4, they might take on e5. But I guess they don't have to take on e5, huh? You can play knight f6. Yeah, I guess it's just that simple, but so what's the difference? So after queen d3, queen c7, this is a transposition, right? Yeah, this is the same position we were just analyzing. So now after knight g3, bishop d7, knight e4, they're castling. Alright, so the extra tempo is important with the queen c7. Master, this is my game. This is just one of my online games that I'm analyzing. And it looks like Veronica is sending you a link to a Russian hacker website, so nobody should answer that one. Okay, so anyway, knight g3 is interesting. So the place where things started to get kind of interesting is actually here. So I'm going to put a comment that when black forgoes queen c7 early on, it becomes possible to keep the queen on h7 and attempt to bring a knight to d6 or f6, since black cannot castle away quickly enough. But in a more meta sense, I think that the reason that things didn't go so well after this point here is not just that I forgot my prep. Well, I didn't forget my prep. I'm remembering it, and I played f4, which is all the same ideas. I think the issue is that I was playing on autopilot, so I would criticize this move. I think that in blitz, I'm playing on autopilot much more often, but I should also be careful about that in tournament games. Master being a little bit cautious here to explain why he's not playing his match with Amazing Actor right now. Yeah, it's fine if you're on a break or something like that. Phoenix told me that I should pretend that I was upset that we had to cancel our fan face-off, but I thought you guys already have enough problems with your homework and stuff like that. You don't need more stress from me pretending to be upset with you. So the memes will have to flow another day. So yeah, I think I missed this critical moment, but things are still basically equal, right? Alright, until probably here. So this is another autopilot moment. Okay, so I think that in this game I was playing really, really quickly and trying to follow some ideas that I already knew. And I ended up just allowing some extra ambitious options for black. Basically, not playing queen c7 should have been punished by playing knight g3 to e4. And because I didn't punish black for skipping the move queen c7, they have this extra option queen h4. But even that wouldn't be there if I didn't play rook g1 in this sort of stupid way. So I think this is really the main takeaway, that in the blitz games I shouldn't be playing such immediate automatic moves in the opening. Probably it's important to get an opening position and play quickly at the end, not here. Now at this point, everything is fine for black. This is equal because they could always desperado back. I got lucky that they didn't play queen takes e2. I saw this during the game and I was like, oh man, not happening. But they let me take their queen, and I think I ended up flagging or something in this game. trying to remember what it was. Yeah, I think I remember flagging. I should have overprotected this. That makes a lot of sense. And we're just going quickly here because, again, this is like our fast analysis method, not like rigorous kind of stuff. I really liked giving this check with the king. It's too bad that it wasn't meant to be. Oh yeah, it's not that I flagged, it's that I had too little time to navigate this piece up situation and blundered badly. Yeah, that was just bad. Oh, actually, yeah, I did flag as well. Okay, so that game we'll just skip. I think that critical moment, and the idea that I keep playing sort of autopilot moves in blitz is important. Okay, so this next one, I was playing white, and they played something a little bit strange. But again, here I thought I was able to get into my ideas with knight h3, and this is like out of theory pretty much, but I liked my position here. The moment that I would say is critical is probably a little further on. Oh yeah, so I think here's the critical moment, how I address this pressure. So I'll label this critical moment. And mull it over. So at any rate, I think what I did was too much. Like I have play for the pawn, but my center is destroyed, and that's like why people play this kind of position. So I think castling is really the move to criticize. In fact, I'm going to evaluate this position as slightly better for black. So now moves that do not blunder the d-pawn are kind of like the only options, I think. So if I had to just throw them out there, it would be like, you know, queen a4, bishop b5, bishop e3, those kinds of moves, bishop c2, all moves that don't drop a d-pawn. Now, a nice thing about this position compared to like how this might arise in the French, right? If I played the advanced variation, I end up in a sort of very similar scenario, right? Where there's pressure here, and if I play bishop d3, it's tricky. Like, let's just pretend I play bishop d3 here, right? In a position like this, they can play queen b6, and I think this is really a lot of pressure. I should not have played bishop d3 probably. But nice thing about this position, it's just like it, but they cannot play queen b6 to put pressure. Now downside, my knight's on h3, which would be good later on in the game probably, but for now it's not supporting the d-pawn. So I don't think knight h3 is an example of like autopilot thinking or something. I have a specific idea in mind. It's just tricky to implement it. I need to deal with this pressure. So let's say I choose this, just for sake of argument. I feel naturally that this is not the right move because I'm attached to my light square bishop in the French, but this could be an example of some like autopilot type thinking. I actually have another option that I just realized. I could play knight g5 here and just say forget about the d-pawn. I don't care. I'm attacking. One line that just came to my mind is like this. Hold on. Maybe not quite. And this was something that came to my mind too. Like this kind of thing. And probably there's compensation for black after g6. Actually, no. Bishop takes g8. So they would probably have to throw this one first to try to get g6 with compensation. But this would allow us to either retreat or throw this one in. So that if they play g6, we play h5. This looks a little more promising. Okay, so maybe not rook takes h7. Sometimes you can trap the bishop there, but we probably need knight e7 in play before that happens. So there might be something more like this. But let's not analyze too deeply on that line. Not yet. Because this is all just tentative. It's just like one thing that came to my mind. I think it's easier in a position like this to rule out other options. Alright, so Master says, after knight h7, black can play bishop e7. Let's go back. That's true, but the knight can stay there. Like, if you ever play g6 to try to trap the knight, I can play knight f6. I don't think that's a problem. I also have things to do right now. Like, maybe bishop a6. Although that does look a little like it's abandoning the knight. Okay, maybe we should address this real quick, but this was not my main focus for right now. Like, I could just play f4 and bring the knight out. I think this should be perfectly fine. Yeah, probably. Anyway, that's not the main thing. Knight g5 might be the right idea, though. But that doesn't mean that taking back on d4 is the right idea. Although it does seem kind of intuitive. Like, maybe I want to play f4 and just like play it gambit-like. f4 to protect e5. Well, I wouldn't never mind it. I think that's kind of an interesting and important line. Bishop e7. Actually, because this is interesting, let's just stay on knight g5 compared to these other options. In the interest of time, I probably won't look at all of them. Because I don't think queen a4, bishop b5, bishop e3, bishop c2, I don't think these are really promising. This one looks kind of good. If I play f4 here, hold on, yeah, f4 is with the idea of protecting e5, but then they can get h6. And now I don't want to play knight h7, because now my knight's like for real trapped. But I can throw this one. It could be compensation. I don't know. Interesting position. Yeah, I thought of b3 as well, Master. But I think they're gonna just walk away. Like, I just walk over here. You get some development, but I'm just not sure about it. Maybe f5 here, but the knight takes e5. Actually, no, knight takes e5 doesn't work. Okay, maybe f5. Okay, let's just say I play f5 and they just keep running, because that's their idea. I don't think I can really afford to take on e6. Maybe castle, with the idea of taking on e6. For instance, if they take this now, I think we might have something. Let me see. No, that's too much. Okay, we probably should play bishop f4 against this. But if we're playing this, why are we playing b3, right? If we need this resource to save us. So I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense. Okay, maybe just f5 right away. Idea is bishop g5. This might still be an issue though. Although it's quite tempting to just like castle here, say forget about it. It's two minor pieces for a rook and black's king safety, so maybe? I'm not really that convinced. I think that so some kind of knight move is forced here, right? Maybe this. That looks too strong, so probably knight f6. Okay, but probably the point is not to analyze these things like so in depth, because I want to know, like, can I play this like in a practical game? So at any rate, knight g5 does not look clearly bad. Like, maybe I could even throw this right away. I'm losing all the pawns though. Yeah, development's just not there. Probably not happening. Okay, so just to like not go down a rabbit hole here. So I was checking out knight f7, and then queen h5 is also an idea, but I think queen h5 is not that challenging. All right, we were trying f4 first, and then this, right? So f4 was the idea. And we were looking for h6 as a direct refutation. I think that if I can play f5 without blundering this bishop or something, that would be really good. So maybe I'll just look for a position like that, and then call it a day. Maybe castle first, preparing f5. They can't really play queen e8 because I'll play bishop g6, so that seems promising. If they take on c3, that's probably just suicidal. I'll play knight c3, big development. Can't move their bishop. Can't move their knight. So they might start running with the king again. And this is our f5 party happening. We go here. Maybe I'll take on e6 now. I really want to get my pieces into the game though, like in a serious way. This gets the rook in kind of, but I'm still not sold on it. Like, let's say they go... Actually, I don't think their king's ever getting safe. So I think I'm pretty satisfied now that I've seen this, that knight g5 is a really good move compared to what I did. And just on principle, I might look for a simple alternative, because I think when you get into the weeds, it's tempting to just play it because you've already invested so much effort into it. And our analysis is a quick analysis, so it has that kind of psychological element as well. So I would also look for a simple solution here. Like, what if I just play... Alright, well, first of all, what if I sack the d pawn and then I just play f4? This is good enough. Will it blend? That's a whole other can of worms. So maybe I'll just focus on alternatives to what I played. Well, queen a4 is probably out. Because of queen d7. They're threatening knight e5. Another option to not lose the pawn is to take here. But this also abandons the e pawn completely. So I'm not sure about this. This might be okay. It just looks a little antithetical to what I was trying to do. Like, if they take this, I should probably play bishop b5, either now or on the next move. Alright, later, Yeater Master. Thanks for dropping in. So maybe I'll do it right away. I think this is the best for them. They want to get rid of their light square bishop. I could put some pressure on maybe. They can pressure right back. I'm still not sold on this as a position I want to play. I'm not sure I would even characterize my development as like more. But maybe the queenside structure is good. I don't really think so. I think this is probably perfectly fine for black. Alright, I'll look like a little bit deeper. So bishop c5 is kind of what I'm thinking is good for black. They're threatening to take and destroy my structure. If I take, I fix their structure. If the bishops are both gone, I don't know how I'm going to pressure b6 in a meaningful way. So that's it. Yeah, so probably that's not a great option. After bishop b5, probably they'll take. Actually, no. I think they won't take. And the reason I think they will not take is because I can play moves like knight c3 that I normally cannot play in positions like this. And that's kind of nice. Even if it's not bishop b4. Like, I don't care about the tactics or anything there. Just knight c3 is an extra option. So they'll probably hold off. Play like a6. And now I kind of have to take, I think. Or go back to e2. Something weird like that. And I don't like playing this position without my light square bishop. Only nice thing is, like, I'm castled. So after knight e7, they'll probably play like g6, h5, if I had to guess. Just to stop anything from happening. Okay, so I think this is what I want to check out, and probably not really much else from this game. Alright, here it says bishop e3 is best for white. That makes some sense, although I'm also underwhelmed with this option, because they can get in, like, knight h6 to f5. I don't like that so much. In fact, let's say I do it right away. Yeah, this is like engine's top line. It says white's a little bit better here. So rook e1 and knight d2 are kind of like obvious moves. I don't really believe this engine evaluation so much. It says like +1, but I just don't see it. Like, I'm counting 8 pawns, and I don't have the bishop pair. Only thing that's like maybe worse for black is that they haven't castled yet, and their f pawn's weak. But if I try to go for it, like with what the computer says, then I don't think there's an issue. Not like a major issue. I'm even wondering if they could play like g5, try to play f4. Although, like, I get that they should probably put their queen somewhere better. Like, maybe they should put their bishop on e6 and the queen on d7 for extra safety. Or maybe just play queen d7. I don't know, this is kind of nuanced. It's like, I'd have to know how to play that position just fine to choose this. Well, actually, no, maybe not. I can see that it's a little bit awkward for them to castle and choose that line. And the way that happened is like with these kind of natural moves, and I take on f5. So probably a takeaway here is that doubling black's f-pawns is good compensation for the light square bishop. That might be something I want to emphasize. So I'll put compensation on this move. Okay. Here it said rook e1 was a move. This is the main line. It says this position's about equal, but like black's slightly better. I think black's probably a little bit better than that, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree. And in the rest of the game, I played a bunch of really active moves that didn't really lead anywhere. Actually, at some point, I think I got a winning position, but I don't remember. It was a rough game. I might have had like compensation at some point for everything, like maybe here. No, this is completely dead last. What am I saying? Maybe before I sack a piece. No, I'm probably thinking of another game. I thought there was like one move where I'm okay. It might have been here when knight takes f7. That's what the computer's pointing out to me. Because if they take like this, then there's knight takes d5 with big tactics on c6. Tactics are still there. So there's some kind of interesting stuff going on. But I didn't think of that in the game. That wasn't really like the critical moment that I wanted to analyze. Okay. Probably I should stop for now, and I'll continue this in another segment. I have like 10 more games in this baker's dozen for us to go over at another point. So you guys can look forward to more stuff like that in the future. And as usual, thanks for all of your support. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.